There was a Super Bowl this year. Who saw it? This is one way to tell you what happened. But this is Ed Sable, whose NFL films changed football from being just a simple tale of wins and losses to an epic tale of human struggles, successes, and disappointments. So this, a disappointed quarterback, is another way to tell the story. To quote Sable, "Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me a truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." Similarly, at a meeting of environmental grant makers a few years ago, there was much anxiety about the fact that the science wasn't holding up and the data was being challenged. That is, until one member got up and said, "Remember, our stories will always trump their facts and data." On the right, our strategists too often focus on talking to our base with messages that may or may not be effective with other voters. In fact, sometimes are counterproductive. Democratic strategists, on the other hand, start differently. They divide the political world into base, swing, and reach voters, and generally they don't speak to their base. They target every message to the swing voter. So, since IWV's mission is to expand our base, we do original research, message development, test it in the real world, and make an investment decision about whether or not to deploy it. Put another way, use the right bait for the fish you want to catch. Don't use the bait that is comfortable for you. What's the right bait? We've been doing this since 2010, but in the last year or so, I found 2 books that help create the framework and articulate why what it is that we do works. Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind makes clear that too often we speak to values that resonate with at best 30% of the country, or worse, talk about money, which isn't a value, and fail to speak to those values, compassion and fairness, which nearly 100% of the country responds to. Simon Sinek's Start With Why shows that we are leading with our products, not our purpose, which is no way to win and make a sale to anyone who isn't already a fan. Take welfare reform as an example. For 15 years, we talked about cheating, fraud, wasteful spending, and got nowhere. But then Myron Magnet and Charles Murray changed the argument to how welfare was hurting people and trapping them in poverty. And we went from fighting against people and for money to fighting for people having better lives, and we won. On another example, you remember the legislative walkout in Wisconsin in 2011? Various groups on our team ran ads attacking unions, which made our base feel great, but alienated independents and women who went south on Walker. By the recall in 2012, campaign messaging had at least shifted from union bashing to talking about what was good for the hardworking taxpayer, but they hadn't talked about what was fair. We did, and the results were remarkable. We created that website, Is That Really Fair? In the control group, who were getting the best advertising the Walker campaign and outside groups could buy, Walker led by 5 points. But those who had also gotten our messaging about fairness, the gap was now 36 points for a net gain of 31 points. We did something similar with the healthcare law, where voters, in fact, if you dig into it, know about 3 pages of the law. You know the parts about how supposedly compassionate it is. We created a website, healthreformquestions.com, and used that to create an education campaign for people to find out how much they really knew about the effects of the law and how uncompassionate and unfair it really is. Applying that message to battleground states got us a 10-point improvement in the ballot test for Romney overall, and among independents who recalled receiving the messaging, we saw a 23-point improvement. But Romney didn't win. Why not? Among voters whose key concern was voting for somebody who cares about somebody like me, Obama and empathy won 81% of those voters, while Romney, with his facts and data, won 19%. The difference is largely driven by the way conservatives now talk about economics. So many sound like corporatists. They only care about business and business owners, even if we know that's not true. What they don't sound like is Reagan, whose purpose was to improve life for all Americans and who rarely talked about business, small business, or even entrepreneurs. Indeed, Independent Women is researching better economic messages. It's not yet complete, but already we know that Reagan was right. For example, opportunity economy trumps economic freedom, free enterprise, free market, and capitalism. Job creators trumps corporations, companies, and businesses. The American people is not only better than the middle class, which is what the left is using, but hardworking taxpayers. Hopefully in the panel we can get to more of what we've learned, but as time is short, just remember, start with purpose about how you want to help people. Speak to broadly held values, particularly compassion and fairness. Tell stories. Remember to convince your audience, not the choir. Take a page from progressives, settle for a slice, and then another slice, going for the whole loaf, if going for the whole loaf will set you back. And visit our discussion guides for suggestions on how the average voter should talk about different issues with their friends. After 6 years, we know that this different messaging works, and works really well, and look forward to exploring new and more effective ways to be persuasive and win. Thank you.